The father forced his son's marriage to a homeless woman as punishment. However, he did not expect the young man's response to this decision. Before the break of dawn, Paul stirred from his slumber, his head pulsating with an intense ache. It felt like a jackhammer inside his skull. Grumbling from discomfort, he tried to ease the pain by shutting his eyes. Just as he was on the verge of drifting back into sleep, his phone erupted in a cacophony of noise, jolting him awake. Reluctantly, he reached out and answered the call, his voice laced with drowsiness. "Hey, what's up? How are you holding up?" he muttered. "Not great," came the response. "We may have overindulged a bit last night. I'm so exhausted that I can barely move." "Why are you awake so early, Paul? What's happening?" "I have a class at the university. Can't afford to skip it. My parents aren't as forgiving as yours. They won't cover for me." "I understand," his friend sympathized. "Well, have a good one. I'll try to catch some more shut-eye." As he ended the call, Paul made another attempt to relax, only to realize his mouth was parched, and he yearned for a refreshing gulp of water. However, summoning the strength to rise eluded him. Plus, he knew his dad was still at home. If he caught him in that condition, he'd surely get an earful. And then, he ruminated. Dad was hardly ever around. Always buried in work, barely speaking to Mom. He played a small role in raising me, thinking money could solve everything. Paul emerged from his slumber around 2 p.m., a time that most would consider afternoon, but to him it was simply the beginning of another day. A dry throat nudged him awake, prompting him to leave the cozy confines of his bed. Quietly, he made his way to the kitchen, where Mrs. Silver, the family's culinary maestro, was diligently toiling away at the stove. Spotting him, she swiftly retrieved something refreshing from the refrigerator. "Here's a little something to jumpstart your day. Drink up and hop in the shower. I'll whip up a little snack for you," she said with a warm smile. "Thanks, Mrs. Silver. Is anyone else home?" Paul inquired. "Yep, your mom is around. Your dad hurried off early today." After a rejuvenating shower and a satisfying meal, Paul paid a visit to his mother, Mrs. Basil, who was deeply engrossed in work at his father's desk. As he entered, she greeted him with a smile. "Hey there, kiddo. I noticed you skipped college again. I implore you, do not disappoint your father. He was in quite a state yesterday, passionately discussing the possibility of evicting you or revoking your privileges." In a spirited exchange, Paul fired back, "Mum, mark my words. If he follows through with this, he'll live to regret it. He's fixated on me, diving headfirst into the world of mathematics, but truth be told, it just doesn't ignite my passion." "But you need him to grasp that," Mrs. Silver interjected with a sense of urgency. "Paul, my boy, you possess a brilliant mind. Understand the immense value of pursuing higher education in today's ever-evolving world. We, as parents, have provided you with ample resources, but our presence here is finite. What is your plan, my son?" Exuding unwavering confidence, Paul replied, "Mum, you've always praised my intellectual prowess. Rest assured, I will find my path and navigate it with finesse. Trust me on this." Paul smiled at her. The memories flooded back, reminding them both of how their parents had first crossed paths during their college years. It was their mother who possessed the unique ability to soften their father's stern demeanor. In her presence, he became a gentler version of himself, refraining from raising his voice and even offering warm smiles. At his workplace, Mr. Basil was known for his unwavering determination, a trait that instilled fear in his colleagues. He held his collaborators to the highest standards, demanding nothing short of excellence. If they proved themselves worthy, he would not hesitate to shower them with praise. However, if he detected any signs of laziness or incompetence, he would swiftly terminate their employment without a second thought. As the owner of a prominent construction company with branches in various locations, Mr. Basil frequently embarked on business trips to personally assess his team's performance. During these excursions, his wife would faithfully accompany him. In Paul's younger years, he was entrusted to the care of a nanny, but as he grew older, there were occasions when he joined his parents on their travels. Unfortunately, he found these trips to be rather dull. Upon completing his foundational education and embarking on his university journey, his life was filled with parties, friends, and daily fun. Puzzled by his father's relentless toil, he failed to comprehend the purpose behind it all. On one occasion, bidding farewell to his mother, he uttered, "I shall be heading to Alan's abode to engage in diligent study, just as you have always instructed me. I am determined not to disappoint Father." In response, his mother offered her gratitude, yet casually mentioned, "By the way, your father has taken possession of your car keys. We have been accumulating quite a few tickets lately, so perhaps it would be prudent for you to consider walking if you cannot exercise caution while driving." Paul retorted, "Mother, are you serious? Father possesses a vast fortune, yet he deems it necessary to confiscate my vehicle due to mere traffic violations. He constructed his wealth through perseverance and possesses the wisdom to manage it. Once you have your own income, you shall understand that reckless spending is unwise." With a forceful slam, Paul shut the door, aware that venting his anger towards his mother was unjust, but unable to suppress his emotions. Why did circumstances have to unfold in such a manner? The absence of his beloved vehicle weighed heavily on him, leaving him feeling incomplete. Determined to remedy the situation, he made his way to the garage, where he was greeted by the familiar sight of Tom, his trusted mechanic and green-thumbed companion. "Tom, do you have a spare key to my car?" "Ah, yes. I always have copies of your car keys in case you lose them. Did you forget where you put yours?" "Yes, I've been looking for it and I can't find it." "Wait a minute. I'll go get it." Soon he brought the spare key to his BMW. "Thank you very much, Tom. You got me out of a jam." Getting into the car, Paul was relieved. He knew his father was trying to hurt him, but his attempt failed. Paul chuckled under his breath, thinking that he should go to college for at least a few days so as not to displease his father even more. Otherwise, his father might scold him more strongly. With those thoughts, he sped toward the house of his friend, Alan. Alan lived at the other end of town, so he often slept at a friend's house. His dedication to education was unwavering, even though he had to travel a long distance to attend class. "Hey, are you home?" "If not, I'm downstairs. Bring the notes. My dad is furious and I need to calm him down." Alan swiftly made his way to the car and handed over a stack of notebooks. "You're good to go. By the way, what's your plan? This is your final year in college. You can't waste 4 years like this. If you don't show up soon, he might threaten to expel you." "I'm going. I can't go against my dad now. How about you come study at my place? I can help you clarify any doubts and catch up on what you've missed." "All right, but I have to be back before it gets dark. My mum caught me drinking yesterday, and luckily she didn't tell my dad. Otherwise, I'd be in big trouble." Paul managed to attend classes for a couple of days, but soon found himself absent again, joining his friends for late-night parties. He enjoyed pushing the boundaries of the city, relishing in the feeling of freedom. Under the cover of darkness, a sudden onslaught by law enforcement ensued, resulting in Paul's apprehension. Hours dragged by painfully as he languished in his cell, awaiting his father's arrival. When his father finally materialized, his stern countenance betrayed his inner turmoil. "I was vehemently opposed to extracting you from this place," he uttered with an unwavering voice. I believe it is imperative that you engage in deep introspection for a fortnight, contemplating the ramifications of your actions within these confines. Your mother, however, insisted on your release. In the face of the storm, Paul opted for silence, patiently biding his time until the tempest subsided. Upon returning home, his father delivered a stern message, firmly declaring, "I will not return your vehicles. From tomorrow onwards, your sole focus should be on your studies. There is only a month left. I implore you to complete them diligently. If I discover that you are skipping classes, there will be consequences." Paul, seething with frustration, spent the entire night grappling with the fact that his father had confiscated his beloved car. The thought of navigating life without it seemed unbearable. A surge of indignation coursed through him, and fueled by sheer obstinacy, he defiantly declared, "I refuse to attend college. I am old enough to make my own decisions. I will not tolerate being treated like a child. I will live life on my own terms. My father knows how much that car means to me. He is deliberately trying to inflict pain upon me." Fueled by anger, the following morning, he sought solace in the company of his former companions. He approached them with a plea, "Hey, can I hang out with you for a while? My parents are exerting immense pressure on me." His friend responded, "Sure, but please be aware that I have no food, so you will have to manage with what we have." Paul glanced at his wallet, discovering a meager collection of coins nestled within. "Seems I'm experiencing a slight shortage of funds," he confessed. His companion couldn't help but interject, "How ironic. A rich man's son now lives in a hurry. If I had a rich father like yours, I would never be short of money." "If you had a father like mine, you wouldn't comprehend the struggle," Paul retorted. The friend countered, "Regardless, this is my abode. If you choose to stay, you'll need to adapt." Upon contemplation, Paul realized that he possessed very little. His so-called friends only appeared when money was involved. Otherwise, they displayed no genuine care for him. Meanwhile, Mr. Basil sat in the car, pondering the path his son was taking. He had always envisioned Paul achieving great things, completing college, joining him in the family business, finding love, and settling down. However, reality painted a different picture. Paul lacked focus, frequently getting into trouble and disappearing. Something had to be done before Paul became even more lost. Yet, Mr. Basil couldn't forget that his son had excelled academically, graduating high school with honors. The catalyst for this drastic change in Paul's life remained a mystery. Mrs. Basil cast a weary glance at the driver and noticed him speaking to her. With a scrutinizing gaze, he attempted to comprehend the situation at hand. "Well, Mr. Basil, it appears that my son has tied the knot and is currently thriving in his newfound marital bliss. His life has taken a complete turn for the better. He adores his wife, works diligently, and yearns to start a family. However, I must confess that I was once at a loss as to how to assist him. The perplexing behavior of today's youth often leaves me bewildered. Yet, I believe I have discovered the solution," mused Mr. Basil. "Marriage is the key, but it must be with a woman of high moral standing, someone who will not vanish into thin air. She must possess a complexity that matches his own, and perhaps even more experience, so that she may guide him." Recollections of the homeless individuals he frequently encountered near his workplace flooded Mr. Basil's mind, particularly one young woman who seemed to always be present. Paul used to frequent those parts as well. Making a mental note, Mr. Basil acknowledged that with proper grooming, this young woman could be quite attractive. Thus he resolved to approach her, offering monetary assistance and seeking her aid for his son. Aware of his boss's intentions, the personal driver, Leonardo, dedicated an entire week to locate her. In the depths of their despair, on the brink of abandoning all hope, Their eyes caught sight of the young woman ensnared in the clutches of two law enforcement officers. "Leonardo? Behold, behold, for there she stands. Swiftly, we must act, lest she be whisked away from our grasp." Once the officers had ensured the well-being of the young woman, they escorted her to Mr. Basil's office. After ensuring the young woman's well-being and conversing with the officers, they proceeded to Mr. Basil's office. With a touch of defiance, she questioned, "What do you expect from me? I'm not like those others. Just let me go." Perplexed, Mr. Basil inquired, "What do you mean by those? Explain." "I refuse to conform or be easily influenced like some addict. I was simply near the mall where they sometimes discard food. Then, two homeless individuals decided to intervene and prevent me from taking anything. An argument ensued, someone witnessed it, and the police were called. Meanwhile, they managed to escape while I was apprehended. If you have a job offer for me, I'll gladly accept it. However, I need to know the details. I'm not a criminal." As Mr. Basil observed her closely, he replied, "You don't resemble a criminal or an addict. You appear as an angel among us. How did you find yourself in this predicament? Why aren't you in school or employed?" "It's a complicated story," she muttered. Mr. Basil's admiration for this young woman continued to grow. Even in the depths of her poverty, he couldn't help but recognize her sharp intellect and unwavering determination to improve her circumstances. "Would you be willing to open up and share your story with me?" he gently inquired. "I believe that I can truly empathize with your experiences." In response to Jessie's revelation, she shared her upbringing in an orphanage, a result of losing her parents at a tender age of 5. The memories of her father lifting her into the air and her mother's delectable cherry pies remained etched in her mind, representing the epitome of love and care. However, the tragic loss of her parents left her without any familial support, leading her to be placed in the cold and unfeeling environment of the orphanage. It was within those walls that she encountered Mr. Basil, a caretaker who treated her with utmost cruelty, even resorting to threats against her physical well-being. Determined to escape the oppressive atmosphere, she managed to break free from the confines of the institution. Yet this newfound freedom came at a price, as she found herself without any identification, home, or opportunities. The absence of necessary documents hindered her ability to pursue education or secure employment. However, amidst her plight, Mr. Basil, having listened intently to her story, presented an unconventional proposition. He offered Jessie a chance to regularize her documents, granting her the opportunity to study and work. Moreover, if she fulfilled his requests to his satisfaction, he promised her a house, a car, and a substantial sum of money. In a state of astonishment, she inquired, "What are your thoughts? Will there be any need for me to inflict harm upon others? Actually, why don't you just marry my son?" Jessie was taken aback by the proposition. However, she mused that this could be her escape from misery. It felt like she had stepped into a parallel reality, something that only happened in movies. In the midst of her conversation with Mr. Basil, she even pinched herself to ensure she wasn't hallucinating. "It feels like I'm in a dream. These things don't occur in everyday life. Are you attempting to defy fate with your wealth and influence?" she questioned. Mr. Basil reassured her, "I am completely serious. Give me your answer and I will alter your path." True to his word, the following day Jessie had the necessary documents and became Mrs. Basil. Mr. Basil responded, "That is something I will take care of. You just need to follow my instructions, choose the path you desire, and I will handle everything else. I see potential in you, and with the proper training, you will achieve remarkable success. You must undergo a comprehensive medical examination. It is crucial for us to have knowledge of your prior health history upon joining our team. Please understand that these requirements are necessary, not to make you uncomfortable. If you prefer, I can accommodate your suggestion. However, considering my circumstances, it is only fair that I prioritize thoroughness. Rest assured, this will not have any negative impact on me. Following the medical assessment, we will commence our project tomorrow. On another note, my son is currently at home. I had to discipline him as his behavior has been inappropriate. I have consistently warned him that severe action would be taken. It pains me to see him harming himself despite his immense potential. After all, he is my son, and I have great expectations for him. When Mr. Basil reviewed her medical diagnosis, he was taken aback. She was in perfect health. She truly is exceptional. Paul anxiously awaited his father's return, uncertain of what to expect and fearing the worst. It was evident that his father was furious, while his mother appeared extremely concerned. As they entered the room, his mother called him over and they joined Mr. Basil. "Hey, Paul, how about we head over to the office? Your dad's on his way and he's really looking forward to having a chat with you. It's going to be a family gathering, so let's keep it cool, all right? Show some respect and try to steer clear of any heated arguments. Remember, he's got your best interests at heart." As Paul was about to voice his thoughts, his eyes fell upon his father sauntering in with a young lady, leaving him completely astonished. There was no denying it. She possessed an undeniable allure. "Paul, I'd like you to meet Jessie, your future spouse," his father declared. Paul couldn't help but burst out, "You must be joking. I'm not prepared for marriage." Mr. Basil swiftly intervened, his tone sharp. "Don't be impolite, Paul. That's not the issue at hand." Paul paused, trying to conceal his disappointment, while simmering with anger over his father's unilateral decision. "Why didn't you consult with me first?" "And who is she?" Mr. Basil interjected. "Jessie, allow me to introduce you to my wife, Mrs. Basil, and our son, Paul. I've grown tired of your reckless behavior. It's time for you to settle down and assume responsibility. She's still in school, and you'll be embarking on your studies and career as well." Paul, struggling to contain his frustration, muttered, "I don't want her around," before storming out of the room. Mr. Basil offered an apology, saying, "I apologize, Jessie, but there's no chance of you sleeping with my son." "I never had any intentions," Jessie responded with a calm demeanor. "But I do request that you take charge in leading him, using your unique abilities. Demonstrate to him that there is a world beyond his monotonous routine," Mr. Basil interjected. "I will give it my utmost effort," Jessie assured. Afterwards, Jessie made her way towards Paul's quarters. He lounged, lost in the melody, oblivious to her presence. Jessie, unsurprised, strolled up and snagged his headphones. "So, you're pretending to be tough while getting lost in this vibe? Just so you know, this particular rhythm isn't my cup of tea. I prefer something with a bit more edge, not individuals steeped in privilege." "And is this your only taste in music?" he probed. "Absolutely, and I have an absolute obsession with cars. I love taking them for a thrilling spin," Paul responded, feeling stung by Jessie's criticism. "Driving? Seriously? Spare me. You know nothing about real racing," she retorted. "I beg to differ. Racing is my true passion. Doubt me." "Let's settle this on the road," Paul dared. "Fine. Impress me. If you fail, you'll be hitting the books tomorrow. But if you succeed, I'm out," Jessie declared, extending her hand towards the exit. "Deal," Paul responded, his grip firm as he shook her hand. In no time, he swept her away for an electrifying nighttime adventure, maneuvering through the city streets with audacious finesse. Despite the excitement, Jessie maintained her composed demeanor, revealing just a hint of boredom. "Just as I had envisioned," she remarked, her tone cool and collected. "Now, it's my turn to take control. Can you trust me behind the wheel?" she teased, a playful glint in her eyes. "Unless you're itching to seize command," she added with a sly smile. "Fair enough. Show me what you've got," Paul agreed, surrendering to her request. "Just make sure we're back before dawn." Jessie let out a mischievous chuckle and assumed control of the car. With a swift shift of gears, she accelerated, and the vehicle shot off into the night. Paul found himself pressed against his seat, gripping the handle tightly, completely enthralled by the spectacle unfolding before him. Having only witnessed Jessie's prowess on the silver screen, he marveled at her skill firsthand. Upon their return home, Paul was left in awe. He regarded Jessie with newfound admiration. "Hey, Jessie, how about we hit the dance floor tomorrow? I've got something even more exhilarating planned. I have far more thrilling plans in store. Remember our agreement? It's best if we get some rest tonight since we have classes tomorrow." The next month brought about an extraordinary situation for Mr. Basil. His son and Jessie were preparing to embark on their college journey together. Thanks to some influential connections, Jessie had secured a spot in a prestigious mathematics program, acing all the exams and entering as a freshman, despite being on the verge of completing her studies. "The power of money truly works wonders," Paul's father remarked, "but I have no doubt that you will excel. By the way, where did you acquire such profound wisdom?" "Well, I didn't mention it earlier, but during my time in the orphanage, we had exceptional teachers. What I learned there has served me remarkably well. My path took a different turn until someone intervened," Jessie replied, her face filled with sadness. "That person is no longer in the picture. And trust me, they will encounter difficulties in their own field. They won't find acceptance among honest individuals," Mr. Basil said with a smile. Paul's perception of Jessie had undergone a significant transformation. He couldn't fathom how a seemingly fragile girl possessed such an abundance of bravery and audacity. The previous day, her driving skills were on par with a seasoned professional. Once school ended, he patiently waited for Jessie, and they embarked on the journey home side by side. Seeking solace in a cozy resting spot, he was swiftly interrupted by her unwavering presence. "Paul, I'm in desperate need of your assistance. There's a multitude of concepts that elude my understanding, and the impending exams are causing me great distress. If you lend me your expertise, I promise to impart upon you some valuable driving techniques." With that agreement, they spent the day immersed in their studies, taking breaks only to eat. Paul's mother observed in awe as her son spent the day in the company of this young woman. As evening descended, Jessie unveiled a few driving tricks to Paul. Afterwards, she took him to a magnificent corner. He was amazed. He had no idea of the existence of such a place near the city. Jessie stepped out of the car and perched herself on the hood. "Behold," she exclaimed, "from this vantage point, the sunset is truly spectacular. My father used to bring me here during my childhood, and we would marvel at its beauty. Have you retained everything we've learned?" "Absolutely," Paul replied confidently. "Driving runs in my veins. My father was a pilot. I dreamed of him passing on all his knowledge to me, but he went away and left me adrift." She continued, "I went to an orphanage, and at 15, I met Daniel. He taught me to drive, but an illness took him unexpectedly. He was my great friend. After he left, I had difficult days, but I found goodness along the way. See, I am resilient. Life has tested me, but I keep going, and I can take care of myself." Pausing for a moment, he sensed the vast divide that separated their life experiences. In that moment, he felt small and inadequate, juxtaposed against her strength and resilience. It was a humbling realization, acknowledging that she possessed a deeper understanding of life and was prepared to confront any challenge head-on, while he remained on the sidelines, merely observing. "Jessie, we should head back home. It's getting late and we have early classes tomorrow," he said, his voice filled with concern. Paul had excelled academically and earned his diploma, and his influence had also propelled Jessie to success in her own evaluations. Later that evening, they grabbed a bite to eat and made their way to the venue where Jessie had first showcased her talent, commemorating their triumph together. "Thank you, Jessie. I feel like a different person now," he expressed, a sense of transformation evident in his words. A wry smile appeared on his face as he continued, "You know what's funny? I thought I had a lot of friends, but as soon as I stopped going to the club and paying for their whims, they forgot about me. They didn't want my friendship. They wanted my father's money. If I had gotten this on my own, it would be disgusting to see someone living at my expense. When I stopped financing their follies, they lost interest. Speaking of work, tomorrow I will be looking for my father to get a job. I intend to start at the bottom, as he always recommended. You're right. I think I'll do a good job. Besides, I need to take care of my future wife, since she won't be starting work anytime soon. You, Jessie, must continue your studies, and my role is to provide for us." Jessie smiled wistfully. She admired Paul, realizing he was far more insightful than she had presumed. Nevertheless, they came from different backgrounds. Paul, she felt, belonged with someone of his own social standing. Yet, his dedication to the family business wasn't solely for himself. It was primarily for Jessie, whom he loved deeply and couldn't envision life without. Paul observed the blossoming bond between Jessie and her mother, Mrs. Basil, who now regarded her as a daughter. Throughout Jessie's work and leisure time, they spent much of their days together. "Mrs. Basil, it seems you have a knack for computers," Paul remarked. "I thought we'd need a technician," she said. "I mentioned it to my husband, but he's always swamped." She shrugged. "It was just a virus. I ran some software and now it's all good. If it had been something else, I might have been lost." She glanced at Jessie. "Hey, want to come with me to pick up some stuff? I enjoy your company. You remind me of my mother." Jessie's eyes welled up with tears. She hastily wiped them away. "I'm sorry. I didn't mean to upset you. If that was hurtful, I truly apologize." Mrs. Basil smiled warmly at Jessie. "Don't worry, dear. I'm glad you're here. We see you as a daughter." Then they decided to head out for some shopping. "Jessie, how could you think you've hurt me?" Mrs. Basil continued, her words touching Jessie's heart. "I understand your situation. Mr. Basil has spoken highly of you. I'm grateful to him. He's changed my life in ways I never imagined." She paused, reflecting. "He's influenced your life, and you've brought harmony into ours. I can't express how thankful I am. Thanks to you, our worries have lessened, and Mr. Basil is more joyful and communicative." She glanced at Paul and Jessie, noting their inseparable bond. "It's wonderful," she remarked. "My son seeks advice from his father. It's heartening to see." She sighed contentedly. "Thank you for everything." As the vacations passed by, Jessie embarked on her college journey. Meanwhile, Paul flourished in his work, bringing pride to his father, unaware that his motivation stemmed from Jessie. Mr. Basil's friend, who hailed from Germany, paid him a visit. Being in the construction business, he came bearing a lucrative proposal. "Have you ever considered finding a match for your son?" he inquired. Perplexed, Mr. Basil queried, "What makes you say that?" The visitor then unveiled a photograph, remarking, "My daughter is ripe for marriage. Perhaps we could orchestrate something and amalgamate our enterprises." The notion appeared promising. "She's currently in Germany. Perhaps in a couple of years we could arrange an introduction and contemplate matrimony." Mr. Basil pondered aloud. Subsequently, Mr. Basil dispatched Paul on a business expedition before summoning Jessie. "Jesse, your services are no longer required here. You've done wonders for my son, aiding in his growth," he acknowledged. Handing her an address, he continued, "As promised, I've procured an apartment for you. It's fully furnished, all arrangements made, and you've been compensated. Depart tomorrow, Jesse." As she stepped into the apartment, tears welled in her eyes. She felt like the abandoned child she once was, engulfed in profound solitude. Despite now possessing a space of her own and making progress in her endeavors, her heart remained unsettled. Jessie deliberately avoided thoughts of Paul, knowing they would hinder her departure. Her affection for him consumed her every contemplation. Before bidding farewell, he proposed, expressing his love and longing for her companionship. In the quiet of the night, while heading to the kitchen for a cup of tea, he overheard Mr. Basil and his wife in dispute. "Why don't we arrange our children's marriage?" she proposed. "I believe it's a splendid idea, especially for our heir." "Does Paul concur?" "You should have consulted him beforehand. He's shrewd and would recognize its benefits." "When he agreed to my proposal, he understood the advantages," Mr. Basil reasoned. "It was unconventional, but he wouldn't have turned down such an offer." "So, you imply that love isn't his priority? Only agreements?" "And what about Jessie? She's departing tomorrow as planned. I took care of everything, from the place to the money. When she finishes her training, I will help her find a job. She did her part. I really feel sorry for her." "Why?" "Everything went as agreed. She must be fine. Sometimes you act without sensitivity. You seem to see people as objects. You use and discard. That's no way to live." The conversation changed direction, but Jessie was no longer paying attention. She returned to her space, crying again. I couldn't understand her distress, even with all the agreements fulfilled. She felt unbalanced. She spent the night organizing her things, making sure she didn't forget anything. Jessie decided not to continue her college studies and instead moved into her recent apartment. She now needed to learn how to get to school without Paul's help, as he always accompanied her. The new space filled her with joy. It boasted a bedroom, a hallway, a bathroom, and a spacious kitchen. Every piece of furniture gleamed with newness and elegance. She meticulously organized her belongings in the cabinets and shelves. Upon opening the refrigerator, she found it dormant and empty. Deciding to bring it to life, she planned a trip to the nearby supermarket. As she strolled through the aisles, memories of a recent shopping trip with Mrs. Basil flooded her mind. Suddenly, a pang of guilt gripped her chest, realizing she hadn't bid Mrs. Basil farewell, knowing it would bring tears. Meanwhile, Paul arrived home and headed straight for Jessie's room. With days of unanswered calls and a perpetually switched-off cell phone, he attempted to confront his father, only to have the topic swiftly diverted. Undeterred, Paul embarked on a quest for clues. Upon entering his own room, he discovered it devoid of his belongings, books, and notes. Desiring to confide in his mother, he found her absence. Instead, he ventured to his father's office, where Mr. Basil stood with a familiar visitor. "Hello, Mr. Cadell," greeted Paul, receiving warm acknowledgement and praise from his father's friend. Realizing they were not alone, Mr. Cadell mentioned having heard commendable things about Paul from his father. Seizing the moment, he excused himself, citing the need to fetch his family from the airport, leaving them in private. Paul questioned his father. "Hey, where's Jessie? I don't see her stuff." His dad responded, "Forget about her, son. Let's focus on something else. I have a proposition that could benefit us." Paul, puzzled, asked, "What's this proposition? I noticed you had plans with her. She's from an orphanage, has no family, and isn't in our social circle. Maybe we should reconsider." The father insisted, I have an idea. How about marrying Clara? Remember her? She visited us as a kid, and now she's stunning. Dad, drop the idea. I'm done with marriage. Just a reminder, you already picked out a wife for me." With that, Paul stormed out, leaving Mr. Basil bewildered in his chair. Meanwhile, a ring at Jessie's door interrupted her thoughts. With a start, she answered, only to find Paul standing there, holding a bunch of roses. "Thinking of dodging me? Not happening." He grinned. "Let's head back." Paul and Jessie shared a blissful life, unaffected by anything, deeply in love.